On a microscopic level, they exist to kill. They travel, they attack, they hide, they even gather together in defense maneuvers. Pathogens are the enemies of every member of the healthcare team. On Pathogens and PPE, we give you the tools you need to fight these threats and win. So sit back, tune in, and let's make these microbes tremble at the sound of your name.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with our bonus episode number 13 with the Pathogens and PPE podcast. This is all about career progression, and we are going to dive in deep with the AIPC certification through CBIC, and we're going to talk a little bit about the CRCST for IPs. And I'm here with my co-host Tiffany. I am Jill Holdsworth, the manager of infection prevention at Emory University Hospital Midtown, and I'll let Tiffany introduce herself.
Hi everybody, my name is Tiffany Reece. I'm a sterile processing professional based out of Michigan.
Stay tuned, everybody, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of the Pathogens and PPE podcast. This episode is all about career progression. We are going to talk about the AIPC, which is a certification through CBIC. We're also going to talk about the CRCST, which is our SPD certification that IPs can get. I have some really special guests today, along with my co-host Tiffany, and I'm going to go ahead and ask our guests to introduce themselves. All right, and let's get started with Jessica.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Dangles. I'm the Executive Director of the Certification Board of Infection Control and Epidemiology. We are a subsidiary of APIC, the Association for Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology. And I'm joining all of you from Chicago, Illinois today. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And Frankie, why don't you go next?
Hi, my name is Frankie Catalfumo. I'm an infection preventionist with Inova Health System. I'm a certified IP, so I do have my CIC, and I also do have my CRCST as well. I am absolutely obsessed with sterile processing and high-level disinfection.
Wonderful. And Brandon.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brandon Gantt. I am the manager of education and training for the Emory Healthcare System. Of course, I am a certified sterile processing technician, and the last 3 years or so, I have totally fallen in love with my IP partners here. So good to be here today.
That warms my heart because Brandon and I work together. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you all so much for being here, and we're just going to jump straight into it. And I'm just going to start off with asking everybody where we see SPD and infection prevention kind of intersecting with career progression. And I'm really going to start with Jessica on this. I know Jessica has a lot of thoughts. We talk about this all the time about where we see SPD really kind of growing into the IP field and how we can help with this career progression. Jessica, any initial thoughts?
Thanks, Jill. I really see a lot of career progression in both of these professions. And, off the top of my head, some common themes between both of these professions are really patient safety, adherence to standards, regulatory compliance. I think, whether it's a accrediting body or a regulatory organization coming into your organization, you have to know best practice. I think continuous education and training are two really common themes. Things are constantly changing. If you spend any time on LinkedIn, you see updates every single day. I also see a lot of similarities with things like quality assurance, risk management. And, the last one I'll say before I turn it over to some of my colleagues here is interdisciplinary collaboration. I think both of these departments touch so many different aspects of their organization. But I'm curious what some of my colleagues on the call here think.
So, Jessica, I absolutely do agree that everything is quite multidisciplinary. As somebody who started out as an infection preventionist, I became more interested in SPD, and I realized that I could progress my career and sort of my subject matter expertise by getting this additional certification. So even showing our SPD partners that we can go ahead and start to speak more of the same language, and then also how we know the training that they need to go through to get that certification and become experts in sterile processing. I think it's kind of like a Batman and Robin scenario. We need that partnership and we need our sidekicks. And luckily, IP and SPD, these credentials really help us show up and show that we have a deeper competency.
I love your Batman comment. That is absolutely true. And we all need to be partnering together. And I love the concept of these certifications and us having CRCST as IPs and SPD techs having the AIPC, because it only makes us stronger to have this increased knowledge and this increased expertise to help each other. And as a CRCST myself, that is why I got that as an IP. I wanted to be more helpful, more useful, and to really be able to demonstrate my knowledge as an IP when I walked into SPD every day. I would love it if more SPD techs were excited about the AIPC, and I think they are. I hear from SPD techs all the time about wanting to take the AIPC. And there are so many subjects that intersect. You've got the microbiology, you've got the quality assurance. I mean, just like Jessica was saying, there are so many things that we have in common that we talk about every day. And I think that this is a really great partnership and collaboration that we have with some of these exams and knowledge-based things that we're doing.
I've loved the facilities that I've worked at where our infection preventionists come down and work with us, learn what we do a little more intimately. They teach us a lot. I do agree. I think a lot of techs are excited to learn about the AIPC. I saw a lot of enthusiasm for Beyond Clean's micro-credential, and this is like a next bigger step.
You know, as an educator, a system educator, I get a lot of new people that are new to healthcare, new to sterile processing. But after my 13 weeks with them, the one thing they always ask me is, what's next after sterile processing? Because they want to do more, they want to learn more. And I always look at infection prevention as a career advancement opportunity for them with further education and training. You know, both areas aim to minimize patient harm from infection, and they both use evidence-based criteria to support their efforts, with SPD really providing the how of reprocessing practices and IP providing the why. And so I've met a lot of people over the last 3 years, sterile processing technicians, who wanted to advance their scope of knowledge beyond sterile processing. And for me, IP is just a natural choice, because both areas we're trying to promote a culture of safety and really impact the health of patients and workers. And I really am a huge advocate of having that overlap. It's a natural overlap for me.
And I think when we look at the Associate Infection Prevention and Control examination, that AIPC, looking at the content outline, there is an entire section dedicated to cleaning, disinfection, sterilization of medical devices and equipment. So I think the folks working in sterile processing would already have that confidence to kind of tackle part of that content outline on the exam already. So I think that's very clear that there is that intersection between both of these two professions.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Jessica. And even when there's IPs that want to take the CRCST, I mentioned that too, that you are content experts when you work in sterile processing in certain pieces of this puzzle. IPs are also content experts in certain pieces of this puzzle, but none of us are really the expert in everything. And so we need each other if we're going to be taking these certification exams to help each other through some of these content materials and chapters. And so it's really a great partnership that we can have. If you want to take any of these exams, lean on each other to help get through some of these things. And no one in IP ever came through and said, well, I just know everything about decon and I've never even stepped foot in sterile processing. So it's a natural thing for us to ask for help. And we, as IPs, welcome sterile processing technicians to also ask us for help on taking the AIPC. And it can only further your knowledge and your expertise and, in turn, patient safety, because that's what we're here for, right? We're here to make patients have a safer experience, have a safer encounter, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we always want to give the best service we can provide.
Jessica, can you tell us a little bit about the details of the AIPC? What are the criteria to take the AIPC? How long does it last? All those details that everybody's probably wondering.
Of course, the AIPC, the Associate Infection Prevention and Control Examination, it is a certification, and sometimes there's confusion on the difference between a certificate program and a certification. So a certificate is something that you earn following completing a course or a series of courses, but certification is awarded following successful completion of a comprehensive exam process. The AIPC is delivered in a secured, proctored environment. It's offered every day. It's delivered through Prometric testing centers or through taking the exam at home. It is 100 questions. They're all multiple choice questions. We have a content outline on our website, as well as all the resources that were used to develop the examination. So the content outline is really your best friend when preparing for that examination. You'll find out right away after submitting your exam whether or not you were successful or unsuccessful on the exam. The exam is a 5-year certification. So once you've earned your certification, it's valid for 5 years and renewable via retaking the examination. Now, it won't be that same exam you took 5 years prior. It will be a modified and updated exam. But from there, you can either renew your certification or you might be ready at that point to start pursuing your CIC certification.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Jessica, can you just clarify for everybody, because this has changed over the last couple of years, who can sit for the CIC exam now?
So we have updated our eligibility requirements to guidelines, and that's really in line with Civic's strategic plan to really increase accessibility to certification. We hear from people all the time that they just kind of ended up in this field of IPC, and a designated career path is certainly in the works, but we're not quite there yet. So we recommend post-secondary education in a health-related field for the CIC. And we also recommend 1 to 2 years of experience. And that's really to set you up for success on the CIC. We don't have any guidelines in place for the AIPC, but I would certainly recommend, if you're feeling confident with that content outline, if you've studied, you feel ready, but there aren't any eligibility guidelines or requirements. So if you're ready, I would, take that leap and go and pursue your AIPC certification.
I'm going to throw a question to Brandon as somebody who educates sterile processing technicians often and has big classes of lots of content. How do you think that programs and educators can, one, solicit interest in things like the AIPC or more interest in infection prevention, and two, how can we build even more content in around the microbiology and the things that maybe are a little bit harder for those in the sterile processing field, so that if they wanted to go on and take the AIPC, they would feel more confident and ready?
One of the things that I really love to do with my program, which is a 13-week program, is really introduce a rather robust IP portion to it. Because to me, at the end of the program, I do talk about career progression, but I also talk about the importance of the partnership between IP and sterile processing. And so when I put that in their mind, it's very important to place that in their mind right away, because I want people to be successful. I want people to discover additional things about healthcare, additional paths to take. And I think any program that is out there should really focus on IP very early on. I think it's one of the key things to really do. But we should also, one of the things that I am doing, and Jill and I will partner with this, is to create an additional program for people that are working in the industry already of sterile processing. One of the things that we should really do is invite our IP partners to really come into the departments and educate our staff. I think that's very important. whether it's an in-service or whether it's a visit, or whether it is maybe even job sharing opportunities or job shadowing. We have a lot of people who have never left their departments, unfortunately, when it comes to sterile processing, and they don't know what somebody does down the hall. And I think it's great when we give people those opportunities to go out with our IPs and really see, okay, what is your day like? What do you do? What is this job? And is this something that I can do with a little bit more guidance, a little bit more education, and just spending more time with them? So I think that really is key to create that shadowing opportunities for people to really get a better understanding of what IP is.
I love that. Frankie, what do you have in your back pocket about working together? We call it going into the Gemba and where the work is done. And I know Inova was really big on lean when I worked there, so I know that you know what the terms mean. But what do you think about all of that and shadowing each other and how we can work better together?
I think it's an excellent opportunity. I often say you likely know what you're already doing. An IP just kind of needs to connect a little bit more dots. You probably know more about bacteria than you know, and it's about building that foundation. And then also talking to them about certification as a goal to reach for, because when I reached for certification for sterile processing, it helped me know my job better. I actually could put the dots together a lot more efficiently. And overall, I just think you benefit the patient much more. And a certification is just a baseline, and you become hungry for more. And also you get more opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask Tiffany a question as a technician in the field who has expressed to me how interested she is in certification. Tiffany, what makes you interested in the AIPC?
Well, it's a few things. Going off of what Frankie said, that hunger for more, I got my CRCST, and then I got the other three. And then I felt like I had reached a point where I almost became stagnant in my education. And I wanted to search out, what avenues have I not gone down to really deep dive? And I had a manager at the time when I started who was an infection preventionist. And so hearing her talk about those things and different topics, once I found the AIPC, I was like, this is my next thing. This is what I'm hungry for.
I love that. I think there are so many people out there that are hungry for something else. And there were a lot of people that I've talked to across the country that they want to know more about IP. And even if they don't want to go into IP, that's okay. You don't have to want to work in infection prevention. That is totally okay. But if you do want to just know more about infection prevention, this is also a great way to do that. But it's also a great way to get some letters after your name too, to prove that you did that and you did that work.
I completely agree as well. I just want to say, when you get your credentials, maybe management isn't your thing, but maybe you want to be a subject matter expert with education. Getting these certifications could help you even deepen a passion for education and maybe even publishing. I love seeing SPD publish. They need more of it. We need to know more about it. So there's different routes that you can take and different purposes for achieving this certification.
And, we've heard from hiring managers that when they're making that decision to hire someone that has their AIPC versus someone that does not, that candidate that's pursued certification has really demonstrated that they really want to put in the effort. They wanted to demonstrate that they have that foundational knowledge. So I think when a hiring manager is kind of on the fence, I think that's kind of a great way to really show the value of certification. And there's really been studies to show not just healthcare certifications, but certification in general leads to people having more satisfaction in their job, having better compensation, having more autonomy in their roles. And from a human resources perspective, people tend to stay in their jobs longer when they're certified. And so I think that retention piece is quite the selling point for those that are making those hiring decisions.
And something I've noticed as well as a hiring manager is you can also tell your recruiters, hey, I want to make sure that anybody that has this, and this in their resume or these credentials or these words, I want to make sure these are filtered out. And I want to make sure you pull resumes that have this. And AIPC is going to be one of those things that are pulled out in resumes now. And that really is going to start getting a lot of attention. And that's one of the things that I'm starting to look for as well, because it is something that people are seeking out. And if somebody even says to me, that wants to come into an entry-level IP job and they say, I'm preparing to take my AIPC, I get so excited. I think that is amazing. And I'm happy they know about it. Two, I'm happy they're preparing for it. That to me speaks volumes. It's same thing with the CIC. I love it. And if an IP comes in already certified and they tell me that they're preparing for the CRCST, I mean, that just is mind-blowing to me and I love it. So certifications do mean a lot. It means you care. It means you have a hunger for knowledge, like Tiffany said, and that you want to keep progressing yourself, that you want to develop and that you want to grow. And that is really, really important.
And I will say the AIPC opens up other doors as well. The Civic Board of Directors, we have 2 AIPCs on our board of directors. We are very much a multidisciplinary board of people that work in public health. We have infectious disease physicians, nurses, epidemiologists, and we have members of our test committee that are AIPC that work to develop the certification exam. And I think being part of the board really, opens up a lot of other doors, and certification definitely is a prerequisite, but it's not just having your CIC. We fully welcome anyone with AIPC certification being a voting member of the Civic Board.
Brandon, question for you. If you had somebody come to you and say, how can I get started? I really think that I would like to pursue the AIPC. What kind of advice would you give them?
I would actually tell them to research. I think it's very important to research the role to see if it's something that they really want to do, something that they fully understand, and everything that entails. Because even from the sterile processing realm, I've had lots of people who have walked into the department and they didn't know everything that it involved. And so that's always important to me as an educator. Understand what you are asking for, because you don't want to get too far in and then decide that it's really not something that you want. And then also talk to your IP, talk to the people in the building and get advice from them. Career advice, what steps to take, what are the best resources for education. And then, of course, online content is always the best. I am a member of APIC, and I just wanted to know a little bit more about infection prevention. There are books here on my bookshelf, and I was really surprised about the cross sections like we were talking about earlier with sterile processing and sections on decontamination and sterilization. And so sometimes reading is the best thing to do. Pick up a book. If somebody in your facility has it, and maybe ask, can you borrow it or look at it for a little bit of time to really, again, try to fully understand what everything involves with IP. And just do your research. I think research is so important before you walk into a new career or even the thought of a new career.
It's really great advice. Frankie, do you have some comments on that one?
So speaking of research, I like digging around on LinkedIn, looking who has those credentials, looking where they're currently at, even adding them on LinkedIn and then seeing if they have any study guides, turning it into an informational interview, really. And no surprise, when I was in IP looking for my CRCST, Jill, you popped up. So it's even looking at who's out there and then sort of picking their brain. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Use the internet. It is a wonderful, wonderful tool.
That's such great advice. And I actually do have people ping me all the time asking questions about just about anything, really. How did you get your CRCST? Or ask me about the AIPC, where to start. And there's all sorts of resources, and there's people willing to talk to you. There's IPs willing to talk to everybody about everything, especially career progression, because we really love to educate. IPs love to talk to people who want to get into the field. And then there's a lot of really amazing SPD leaders like Brandon who are willing to talk to people who want to get their CRCST or who want to learn more about sterile processing. So use your resources, contact people, reach out, lean into the LinkedIn community. I think that's the best thing that we can do. And we're all out there to help everybody. And as always, keep watching your Beyond Clean podcast, because there's a wealth of information out there from Beyond Clean that can help you educate yourself, and as well as the rest of this podcast series. And with that, we are out of time with this episode, and I can't thank all of you for being on this enough. And this wraps up this podcast series on pathogens and PPE. And I can't wait to do this again. Thank you all so much for being here. During this episode, we talked a lot about certifications and who might be interested in these certifications. And one thing I took away is that we really need to, as leaders, be intentional with understanding who is interested in these certifications and really asking, what are your goals? Are you interested in the CRCST or the AIPC? And how can we help you get there? And really making sure that our team members have the opportunities to shadow or to learn more about the various content in both of these certification exams. And to really not be afraid to ask the IPs or the sterile processing leaders and technicians to borrow resources or to shadow them for the day, or to just have help in studying in this content. None of us are the experts at everything, and we need to lean on each other to help us study for the content for all of this. And it's a great thing to have a collaborative relationship with each other.
Yeah, sterile processing and IP really do have a lot in common. So using each other as resources to help study for these exams and different certifications.
And that's it for this episode and the Pathogens and PPE podcast series. Thanks so much for joining us through this journey. Don't forget to wash your hands and keep fighting dirty.
Thanks for tuning in to this exclusive podcast series on pathogens and PPE. For more information and clinical resources to help you fight dirty, make sure to follow us on social media by searching for Beyond Clean and Transmission Control.